Spoilerin time. I'm Tom Merritt, and thank goodness, Brian Brushwood, I'm free to speak my mind and spoil things.
Yeah, by the way, spoiler alert, we're about to spoil things. Here on It's Spoilerin Times. We're going to tell the actual fact of our experience watching
This is how
artistic endeavors that you may later encounter.
the spoiler correct people have ruined society, Brian, is that we even have to disclaim that on a show called It's Spoilerin Time.
Hey, man, look, maybe you don't like spoilers. I'm sorry, that's just how we were raised. We spoil stuff.
You know, it was different when I was young, Brian.
Yeah.
I actually used that, didn't I?
It was a different time, 1967, 68.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah. That's just how we were raised. We spoil.
I wonder if that'll happen. I wonder if spoiling things is like I'm just behind the times. I'm the old man who can't adapt, and people are like, "No, man, that's just really."
Are we
really...
like racist grandpas? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Is
We're
like...
spoiler and grandpas?
Sorry, man. I was raised to
He's
talk
just one
about
of
the
those old men
movies
who
that I was
spoils
excited
things.
about.
Yeah.
Maybe things are different now.
Well, we'll try to be better than that. Star Wars The Force Awakens teaser trailer will be our first spoil. Then the S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes 314 and 315.
Oh my gosh.
ending
By the
season
way,
3.
I think this is the first time that you've broken and watched 2 in a row.
It's not the first time. I did it at the end of season 2.
Okay.
So I think I have a thing where I get to the end of the season and I'm just like, no, I gotta watch the next one.
Right on, right on.
And then Walking Dead episodes 2 and 3 of season 5.
No. 3 and 4.
3 and 4?
Yeah,
Oh.
we covered 1 and 2 last time.
Oh, okay. 3 and 4.
Yeah.
My mistake.
I also am too excited to go one episode at a time. All right, let's dive in with the Force Awakens trailer.
The Force got up, had a cup of coffee.
Force woke up and be like, yeah, did I miss anything?
Well, actually, it woke up and it said, I'm sweaty and in a stormtrooper outfit on a planet that looks like it might be Tatooine. What's going on with that?
All right, let's talk about the IO9 story that you found that broke down everything scene by scene. What were the moments that stood out for you? Because I avoid, what's funny is, and this is how we all have our own personal boundaries, like I'm cool with watching the trailer, but I intentionally try to not let my mind go into a place where I might figure out a plot point or whatever.
No, I have always been the opposite.
Really?
Since Sentience, and this may be why I'm so like angry about the whole spoiler thing. When Return of the Jedi came out, as I mentioned on the main episode, I bought the book, which is right over there, actually, that has all of the details about the movie. It names Anakin Skywalker. It names the Ewoks. Like the fact that it had Anakin Skywalker's name in there blew. I was like, oh, what is that? Are we going to get to see him? Like, I still didn't know who he was, right? But I wanted to find out as many details as possible going into the movie. So when this trailer came out, I got up in the morning, watched it on my phone. Then I watched it on my laptop with my wife. Then I watched it again on my laptop with my wife after she had woken up enough to pay attention to it. Then I went and I read the CNET, Verge, and IO9 breakdowns of the scene by scene. Then I went to see Big Hero 6 at the Oak Ridge Cinema in San Jose and watched it again in the theater.
And all of that was work. I would just like to remind you of how rad our job is.
That's
Thank you to our 2,000 bosses for
Seriously.
making this our actual
You're
job.
right. I totally did that for you. Not just would have done it anyway.
Okay,
Totally
so you read this breakdown. I have not read this. I kind of intentionally didn't look at it. Spell it out for me. Spoil me live on what I should read into all of this stuff.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. I've read a lot of these different breakdowns, and they're saying, okay, is John Boyega actually a stormtrooper? Right? Which some people have like, but wait a minute, I thought they were all clones. They were all clones in the prequels. We actually have evidence in the middle 3 movies that they're not clones anymore. For instance, there are different size stormtroopers that aren't Luke Skywalker and Han Solo with different voices.
Right.
So I think they used to be clones, and then as time went on, the Imperials said, you know what, we should allow other peoples into stormtroopers.
Well, and also in the inimitable Mr. Plinkett voice, I will try to imitate. He says, he's like, unless they were, he's like, oh, this guy's a stormtrooper, unless he's someone pretending to be a stormtrooper.
Exactly.
Like
right?
Han and Luke.
So that could be the truth. Then we see a droid and it's got a rolly bottom instead of, so we don't have to deal with R2D2 not being able to make it around in the sand.
Dude, all right. By the way, can we real quick talk about this? I'm gonna pull back a curtain on a friendship here, and I apologize to my good friend Rob Krekel, sound designer for Naughty Dog Studios. He really had a problem with that droid. And so I was like, hey, Jalopnik has a good breakdown for how that's good and practical for an R2 series to go to a sphere base, whatever. He's like, I don't buy it. It looks like he's basing it off of Ralph McQuarrie's old discards, and I think a lot of this is. I just wish there was a context for it. And I was like, wait, you just need context? So I wrote, here, I gotcha. 15 years after episode 6, Space Steve Jobs introduced the next great advancement in astromech design, the sphere. Think about it, he said to a room full of enraptured aliens. Traditional astromechs were designed for flat spaceship hulls. It's been thousands of years since we've relied solely on flat surface technology. Alien Ive commented, the sphere truly is a revolution. Using our patented Astrolev technology, we're finally free of inefficient pre-Republic legacy design. Stock soar iDroids sell, they become old and dusty soccer balls. Boom. Quit worrying about it, bro.
I just don't like the look of it.
What?
I really don't. I'm like, it's fine. It doesn't bother me as much as Krekel.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I'm down. I'm in.
But it looks a little cutesy. It's got a little bit of like, this is for the kids.
What are you talking about? It's a freaking soccer ball.
For the kids.
All right.
Okay, then we get new Stormtrooper helmets, which even though I'm staring at the still that I have looked at all weekend, I can barely tell the difference between these and the old ones because I'm a Philistine. I mean, I get it. I see there's some subtle differences, but people were freaking out about the new Stormtrooper helmets. I don't think they're that.
I thought that was the least freak-worthy out part of the entire thing.
Yeah, definitely. To me, it was more like, ooh, Stormtroopers, classic Stormtroopers. They don't look that different. I was excited about the fact that they didn't look that different. It also tells us that, hey, Stormtroopers still exist. They haven't been wiped out, right? So the Imperials...
Well, but also keep in mind, like, Republic troopers, which were essentially Stormtroopers in the prequels, were the good guys, I guess. So it's like, it puts me in a weird place where it's like, well, should I like these guys or not like these guys?
No, I think these are meant to be from the Empire, but the Empire is what it told me was the Empire still exists. It's not totally crushed yet.
So one of the things we talked about in the Weird Things podcast was the fact that this is called The Force Awakens and that it takes place 30 years after the previous movie puts us in a unique position where what if with the destruction of the last Sith, essentially, you Sith is essentially two characters. You have the Master and the Apprentice, right? So you have Darth Vader and the Emperor, both of which get killed in the last movie, which means the dark side is banished, the Sith are dead, but you still have the political intrigue of the Empire versus the Rebellion, because in the original trilogy, the two of them, the Rebellion was synonymous with light side and the Empire was synonymous with dark side. That's no longer the case. There is no light side, dark side. There's only Luke Skywalker running his Jedi Taekwondo Academy on the side, and you have 30 years of a Cold War, U.S. versus Russia politically happening. We assume that not everyone is gave up the Empire at once.
It's a Cold War? Well, I would assume it's a hot war.
Okay, a hot war, but whatever. I mean, there's territory that's safe for the Republic, and there's territory that's safe for the Empire. I would imagine. This is all speculation. But then this movie could be about the awakening of this third vector, when it's like, oh, crap, Force is back in the picture. And now, and there's a dark side Force is back in the picture for the first time ever. I don't know.
Yeah, here's where it gets because the Sith, there are definitely more dark side practitioners than Darth Vader and the Emperor. And Star Wars Rebels, which is roughly in the canon, shows that. So I'm wondering how that story gets played out, because they're not because they decided in the prequels there can only be a master and apprentice, right? So if the master and apprentice are both dead, what does that mean? Would the other people not Sith, or could they become Sith, or is this finally become Sith? I'm curious about that.
All I can do is beg you and everybody listening right now to read the amazing audiobook or read the actual book if you love dead, stupid print text. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe is an amazing story that builds up the backstory, and it gets to the point where apparently there is like this giant sweeping hand motion from the Disney Empire saying nothing exists.
Right. But Star Wars Rebels is in canon.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Disney includes that.
I guess
like,
I need to watch
nothing
Rebels.
exists outside anymore except what we say does.
What they say,
And
6 movies.
We specifically launched Star Wars Rebels to be
in canon.
Canon.
All right. Well, at any rate, I don't know.
Anyway, so but even beyond that, I mean, the dark side still exists. But you're still bringing up the same question, which I think is a good one. Just like, what does that mean when there's no, where's the Force Awakening from? Like, what's that about? I think that's
and it was Justin Robert Young that pointed out that you realize what this opens up is one of the most enchanting aspects of the Game of Thrones universe. Game of Thrones takes place in a world where, yeah, bro, Jedi used to exist. I guess they ran around with their crazy telekinesis power, lightsaber throwing, whatevers. But meanwhile, Tyrion Lannister is trying to, take over Cersei Lannister or whatever. And it's like that's the world that we could be in, a Game of Thrones-like world in space fantasy where, yeah, magic used to be real, but ain't nobody seen it for 30 years. And then all of a sudden it comes online.
Well, and that's the world of the middle three, right? Like Jedi, who the crap are
hokey
Jedi?
religions and
so
whatever.
this is the reverse.
Yes.
No, I love that. That's good. Then we see Daisy Ridley driving a glasses case with a useless window screen, as described by Red Letter Media.
I was about to say, somebody definitely will listen to a Mr. Plinkett review.
But what Ionine points out is her goggles are salvaged from an old Stormtrooper helmet.
Oh, that's interesting. Although Andrew Main would be the one to point out that this is an incongruous cut between the two because here, can we show it? Because if here, back it up, there you go. If you look in the first half, there's like a device attached to the left, and then it's gone. So this is common in trailers. They grab like random scenes from different
continuity
parts.
is not necessarily their primary object in a teaser trailer.
Yeah. Good eye,
Andrew Main. Then we cut to somebody who looks like
Wedge Antilles.
Wedge Antilles. This is what I think is brilliant about the teaser trailer, and Red Letter points this out too. But I was thinking this when I first watched it: it's enough familiarity that you're like, this is the Star Wars that I've been waiting for. But it's got differences, so you're not thinking, oh, they're just rehashing all the same stuff. So this is a recognizable X-Wing pilot, but with a different helmet. Now, what Ionine points out is it seems like the device that is on top of Big's helmet in A New Hope seems to be on the cheek flap of the teaser trailer pilot.
Okay, can I just say, for the record, how great it is to be almost 40 years old and having this discussion as if we were 12. Like, this is... Bonnie tweeted out, my wife Bonnie tweeted out, like, what am I supposed to buy Brian for Christmas? Apparently J.J. Abrams already gave him his childhood back. Because that's how I feel, man. Like, I'm genuinely back. Nobody hated the prequels worse than me. And yet I'm back in a huge way. Watching these X-Wings, look at how lived in this world is. I believe it, man.
X-Wings over the lake. And then we get to the final shot. Well, it's not the final shot. The penultimate shot of a dark figure in a hood with I think, and lots of these articles speculate, is a homemade lightsaber because it's jagged. It's not clean.
Oh, that's interesting. Somebody who, oh man, imagine like a punk rock kid who abused and kicked around in his neighborhood, who discovers he has a talent and just sort of crafts it on his own, figuring that stuff out.
Well, and guess who also built their own lightsaber after they lost their dads?
Oh,
Skywalker.
Came back like force choking people and whatnot.
You have constructed your own lightsaber, I see. Luke did a better job than this guy. Also, a lot of people are making a big deal about the hilt guard and how dangerous that would actually be.
Don't care.
I'm guessing that there's an invisible guard, just like in the original lightsaber, to keep you from hurting yourself.
Yeah, it's how all lightsabers don't cut through other lightsabers. I don't know. It's diamond encrusted, magic, wizard enhanced. Everybody knows that about lightsabers. Who cares?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
By the way,
you
there's a really
be
good
out
New
there
York
doing
article
something
about
productive with your life.
The ring story that Lucas told from the prequels through the middle three. I think we're going to see a continuing ring story where and that insight about it's the dark side that's been gone, or been not gone, but
underground
hidden, is going to be brought out, and then we're going to have a dark Luke Skywalker essentially. And I think that's what this character might
like
be.
a sympathetic Luke Skywalker, a farmtown kid who discovers he has a unique talent.
Right.
Wow.
He's not going to be an innocent, wide-eyed farmtown kid, though, right? Because it's the dark side. It's going to be like you said, punk rock kid, right? From the inner city in Coruscant when it falls, or something like that.
This is great. If he's like empathetic and we care about him and we watch this face off. Okay, so let's get to the big money shot. Is of course you see the Millennium Falcon
and TIE fighters
doing a backflip on what might be Tatooine. I'm still hoping it's not. But also I'm hoping, because let's face it, last time we saw the Millennium Falcon, it was not piloted by Han Solo. I hope they don't rely on old stuff. And I said all this on the Weird Things podcast. I hope that all of these characters are the same characters in vastly different roles. I want to see Han Solo as a beleaguered diplomat who was that guy that was in that fight a while back. I want to see Han Solo as John McCain. I want to see
Bail Organa.
What's that?
He's Bail Organa.
Yes, exactly. I want to see
Senator
Leia.
Solo.
I want to see Leia as Hillary Clinton, as this person who, again, she was savvy as a young beauty. Yeah, she's now Mon Mothma, right? She's now a politician. I want to see, of course, Luke Skywalker as Ben Kenobi running his Taekwondo class out on the side. I want them to be there, but I want their roles. And I don't mean their actual roles. I mean their fundamental roles filled by other younger, engaging personalities. I'm ready for a new generation of people for me to fall in love with, and I love the fact that they cast relative unknowns for these roles, just like Lucas did, 40 years ago. Again, cannot recommend enough how Star Wars conquered the universe. It's an amazing read.
Let us talk about The Shield.
Yeah, man. 2 in a row.
So these are the episodes all in and on tilt. Too much stuff happens. You got the Armenians cutting off feet right and left. So you've got the whole storyline of Vic Mackey trying to get to Margos before the police, the rest of the police, get to Margos. And then Vic actually shooting him, going off on his own, going cowboy. And there's a moment where you think, like, is Vic going to do it? And before you can finish thinking that, he has shot and killed Margos. Problem solved. But you have Lem finally getting cold feet and saying, look, they're getting closer and closer. I can't deal with this. I got an ulcer. I'm spitting up blood. And then he goes, steals the money train cash and burns most, but not all of it. So there's still $65,000 left. Now he's on the outs. He wants to quit the strike team when Acevedo points out, oh, by the way, they're pretty much phasing out strike teams. So they're not going to make you guys stop. But if you lose a person, you're not going to be able to replace them. And so then they have to go talk Lem into coming back. And now we've got trust issues between Shane and Lem. And that's the end of the season. Is Shane gets in a fight. He takes off. Shane takes off. Vic and Shane are not getting along anymore. Vic basically almost shoots Shane and says, you need to go because I've been your friend. I've been through a lot with you, so you're going to go right now. The strike team is in tatters at the end of this season.
This is the and by the way, we're only on season 3. Is that right?
Yeah, this is the end of season 3.
Okay. This is one of the high points of my entire experience on the roller coaster ride of The Shield. Seeing Lem just lose his crap and realize he would rather have his sanity than this unfathomable amount of money, and watching him just shovel it into the furnace was one of the most I felt ill, because on the one hand, I totally identified with him. You know, he is far and away at this point, I would say, the most relatable character on the strike team. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's your everyman, right? He's like, no, we got to do this. You know, he goes along with some of the bad things, but he goes along with some of the good things, right? He's always kind of taking that middle road.
And yet, to see him make such a bold decision without consulting the others, I remember as he was shoveling that money in, thinking like, I don't think the rest of the team will like this. And I don't think anything good will happen from it. I mean, it was like I felt like ill watching that. And
well, and at this point in the Shield, you've layered up enough of these characters deep enough that everything seems significant. There's not a moment where you go, all right, that's not really going to matter. Like everything gets brought back. So when they start fighting him, because I'm like, I know he's not going to burn all of it, because if the money train cash goes, that's too big of a MacGuffin to have gone, right? They're going to stop him.
Sure.
So they stop him. They're fighting. The money's going everywhere. I'm like, are they going to make sure they pick up all of that money? I don't know, right? And maybe that's a red herring, but that's where my head is like, well, I wonder if any of that money gets left behind. I wonder if somebody finds it later. And then, of course, in the middle of one of these episodes, you have Wagenbach looking at a box of kittens that one of the police found is trying to adopt out, and he's holding the kitten, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's weird. No, don't let him adopt that kitten. For
that's
goodness
a
sake.
dark echo right there. Yeah, absolutely.
You've got Wims now on the other side. She was always the one who was helping Wagenbach as the guys teased him. Now she's the one who's causing trouble. And this is one of the brilliances of the Shield right here is Wims is doing the right thing. But you, or at least me as a viewer, are not sure that she should be. Like the arguments of Aceveda saying, look, but these are criminals. You know, they did bad things. The fact that their public defender was on OxyContin is just going to make us retry a bunch of cases and let criminals go free. We know they're guilty. And you're like, yeah, you know what? I mean, I get it. Like everyone should be defended by someone who's competent and not on drugs. But at the same time, Aceveda's right too, which is like they had the evidence. It's not that the public defender was bad in these cases. And of course, Wims takes that into account. She's like, nah, this one, not this one, not this one. This one, though, this is an innocent man. And so then you're like, well, maybe she did have a point. And it's like, well, he's an innocent man for this crime. But he's not an innocent man for these other crimes. And it's all about the gray areas of like, sure, the law says this, but what's actually really right.
Am I misremembering? If I remember correctly, the issue was that if we crack this one, all of a sudden it invalidates all of his previous convictions. And then all of a sudden, genuine bad guys who deserve to go to jail are suddenly free because they have a way to call a mistrial.
Correct. Because yes, exactly. If one of her cases is invalidated, all of them have to be retried.
Yeah. This is what's
and not
great.
Everybody goes free. Some people will still be convicted on retrial. But some people will not be able to dig up the witnesses anymore. Evidence goes cold. Trials just go differently when they're retried. So some people who are guilty will go free, but Wims found one person who's innocent.
This is what is great about The Shield, is that from episode 1, the opening segment is a clear as crystal, black and white example of good versus evil. We know who the bad guy is. We know who the good guy is. And here we are, just 3 seasons in. You're about halfway through the journey, and you're like, well, it's a little more complicated than that, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
It's like not just on these characters.
Of layering that up and saying, sure, you want to say like the cops should do this, or you want to say like people should have these rights, but what about this situation? What about that situation, right? These aren't necessarily even representative situations, but as a thought experiment, it really does put your mind through the ringer of like, well, I want to be for Wims because she's following the law and I agree with the law, but at the same time, I totally get what Aceveda's saying, and I don't want a bunch of criminals. Like, it basically leaves you going like, the system shouldn't work like that.
Yeah, right.
It's
exactly.
different than the way The Wire does. The Wire leaves you saying the system shouldn't work like that because it just showed you how the system actually works. The Shield's more nebulous and philosophical about it. It's not showing you the reality of the system. Well, it's not purporting to.
Just know that in my heart, there are 2 very, very high points of The Shield. One is you have just experienced of watching Lem, hit a point of anxiety where he's like, I can't, I'm out. And he just shovels money in, not knowing what the consequences are going to be. And then there's another one coming up much later that is very, very exciting. I think I already tipped to you that according to IMDb, season 4 is not as highly rated. I actually loved season 4. I thought it was a refreshing change of pace. I thought it was good.
Don't spoil it.
See what you did there. Season 4 is, if I remember correctly, is the one where Glenn Close joins the cast.
Oh, okay.
And I remember being like blown away. Like, freaking Glenn Close is on the Shield? How amazing is this? I liked it a lot. And then I believe the following season, Forrest Whitaker shows up.
Oh, nice.
For a bunch, yeah. So you get some good talent on there. I'm really excited that you're at where you are, and I think that there's only more awesome sauce waiting for you.
Yeah, I'm totally enjoying it. I'm looking forward to season 4. I don't care what anybody says. And I get now why you and Kanata and people praise it so highly. And I never hated it. I never disliked it. But it really did take me until the 3rd season to appreciate, because I think it takes that long for them to really layer on the paint.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You just can't tell this depth of a story to someone unless you've done the work of those first 2 seasons.
I think I like that layer on the paint analogy, because it seems to me like what initially made the Shield a splash in its season 1 was like, oh, I haven't seen that color of hot pink before. Now you're watching it from like, oh God, that color of hot pink.
Right.
Seeing that a bit. But now it's like you see the layering and the painting and the different textures and all this, I don't know, metaphors. Hey man, let's talk about The Walking Dead.
Absolutely.
So I watched 2 episodes of The Walking Dead season 5 and found myself arguing, proactively arguing with Mark Burstener on Twitter, telling him to come back. He was complaining, and I forget who it was on Twitter. I apologize for not recalling at the moment. He was complaining. I think it might have been Ken from Chicago right there in the chat room. He was saying that I just don't, people are telling me to come back to The Walking Dead. I can't. I've given up twice on it. And I said, dude, nobody gave up harder on that show than I did. And I am so 100% back in just from the first 2 episodes of season 5. And I can double down on that in season 4. And weirdly, I think it's actually a benefit that I actually still have no idea what happened the last season. Like,
I'll be honest. I felt that season 4, episode 9, which is the mid-season return, which frankly, these mid-seasons now are essentially new seasons.
Sure.
The way these shows go. But whatever, it's technically season 4, episode 9, was when it turned the corner. I think if you had started watching then, you probably would feel the same way now. But I also agree with what you said on Twitter, which is don't bother trying to catch up. Just get into season 5, episode 1, and start from there.
It's actually better because we'll go in order. First of all,
season 4, episode 9, by the way, is post-Governor. Just point it.
Okay. So this is season 5, episode 3, 4 Walls and a Roof. This is where Bob essentially now have you read all of the comics, Tom?
Well, I'm caught up well beyond the TV show.
Okay.
I think I've got about 3 of the recent ones that I'm still.
So you know that what we see as Bob's fate in this is almost note for note the story of Dale, how Dale actually met his end in the original series.
Correct.
And again, I am a fine fan of
You
remixes.
shouldn't do that though. You realize you just incurred wrath by somebody.
I don't care. Okay. This is the Spoilerin zone.
We didn't promise to spoil the comic book. We promised to spoil the television.
I will spoil your life.
Always do this.
We promise to spoil life is what we do on this show. So
you're going to die on March 12th, 2047.
Stop
Schneider.
I didn't want to know that. So, I was a big fan of this storyline in the comic book. And yes, I understand the comic book is different from the movie or whatever. The two can coexist. And there's a time where I thought that The Walking Dead was doing it very, very poorly. This is a time that they're doing it very, very well. I don't mind that it's a mashup remix of these, but it hits the same beats. Game of Thrones has a very good track record of hitting the same beats, even though they make fundamental changes, but it still evokes the same emotional reactions. They nailed it on this episode, dude. probably helps that you hired the entire cast of The Wire. I turn it on, and it's like this weird sideways universe where the cop from The Wire is now a priest, and the reformed prisoner is now a football player.
D'Angelo and Cuddy are hanging out.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like well, plus also, like, isn't the girl, wasn't she the lesbian cop from The Wire? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I think she was in. I think she was. I think the girl is in The Wire as well. They'll correct us in the chat room instantly. But at any rate, you have pretty much the whole cast of The Wire playing this thing. It was a good standalone episode where there was a good twist. There was an audacious plan. It was a little bit of a blow up the Death Star moment and so on. You had that horrifying moment of the cold calculation of somebody who lives and thrives in the reality of a post-apocalyptic universe, understanding that it's like, well, I mean, here's a very valid, logical reason to eat other people, which is what I'm doing to you right now. Although I'm such a bad guy that I'm deriving like personal pleasure from eating, that stuff.
Right. These bad guys are so much more interesting than the governor.
Oh my God.
Because they're not like, I'm a bad guy struggling with my past. They're like, no, I'm a bad guy. I didn't used to be a bad guy, but what are you going to do? That's the situation we're in.
Yeah, exactly. I acknowledge the reality that we're in right now, and I will do it. Loved it, especially as a standalone episode. Also, I forgot, and again, I assume that they introduced was it Eugene character or whatever, the guy who claims to know, get me to Washington, D.C. or whatever, and the guy who is like, I totally believe everything Eugene says, even though I don't see any reason, whatever. Remember all of that from the comic books, and so we're pretty much caught up thematically with where I had gotten to in the comic books, which is part of why I absolutely adored, more than anything, Slabtown, episode 4, which opens with, I assume this chick was one of the chicks in the governor's village, right?
The one girl. There's one girl from the governor's village that's still with them.
Okay, right. So I barely remember her. I'm like, I think I saw her in the governor's village, but outside of that, I have no pre-existing
She
baggage.
is the one the governor found when he left the town for a while.
Oh, shoot. So I actually have never seen her then, because I didn't even know that he left the town. So, okay. So to me,
that's Tara.
This is a random-ass girl who wakes up, who I assume is important to the series, because she's clearly the central protagonist. I see an environment.
Oh, wait. No, you're talking about the blonde-haired girl?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's Beth. She's from the farm. That's Herschel's daughter.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's what's her name's sister?
She grows up.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, that's the girl Carl had a crush on.
All right, but
at one point
before she turned 37 instantly.
Well, yeah, the show kind of outpaced her growth. But yeah, no, that's the young blonde girl. That's Maggie's
fine.
younger sister.
That's fine. I had the vague sense that I knew I was supposed to know who she was, and I knew I was supposed to care about her. I didn't, because I don't. But then what was fascinating was to see this opening and think, oh crap, well, this must be a flashback. And the reason for that was because everything was so clean. And then they go on to give a very believable, justifiable reason for everything being so crisp and clean and precise, and this perverse prison-like world. This, all of a sudden, it's like you stepped into the Matrix. You know what I mean? It's this own isolated bubble that somehow survived. Loved it and believed it. I felt dread. It was a little bit melodramatic with the, like, ooh, I'm the rapey prison guard, and, whatever. Loved even the escape moment with all its flaws. There was one thing that was just dumb. Just nobody would believe it. It was just dumb. It was bad writing. Also, it was dumb. They pull in a guy who like, hey, I found his ID in his wallet. I'm like, who the hell is carrying a wallet 3 years after the apocalypse? I don't carry a wallet now. And it's not yet the apocalypse last time I checked.
That's you. Most people carry a wallet, and I that didn't bother me at all. I think a lot of people would still just be carrying a wallet because of whatever, right?
Okay, I get that for the first week.
Maybe not, but it's not the end of the world.
Have you ever been camping, Tom?
It is the end of
You ever been camping? Do you carry your wallet when you're camping?
Been camping a lot.
You carry your wallet when you camp? For the first week?
All of it.
For the second week?
Yep.
For the what about the 258th
Starts to make
week?
me feel secure. I've got an attachment to the past that I want to hold on to. I don't want to give that up. It's part of what makes us human, Brian.
You know what? And that's actually a good point. I think that it would be fine for me to believe that one character would hold on to his wallet. It would be fine but in that case, it seems like the other character should say like, found his ID. He's still carrying a wallet. You know, like, I don't know, just do something to give a nod. Like, don't act like carrying a wallet's the most normal thing on the planet. Ken from Chicago points out the wallet also holds family pictures.
Yep.
Good point.
Let's go.
And by the way, that wallet, of course, was important to the final ending of the plot. I had a moment that was only accessible. I take that back. If you have a DVR, it was accessible. But to me, it felt special because I watched it on demand with the Amazon Prime. When she administers the drug that he told her to administer, and then he's like, "It's called acetylene," and you're like, or he said whatever, I forget the names, but it was two very similarly sounding words, and she's like, "But you said acetylene," and he's like, "No, I said acetylene." And again, those are wrong. I'm sorry to all of you
but
doctors.
Yeah, he said, and she says, you said this one thing. He said, no, I said another.
Correct. And I was I couldn't handle it. I was like, well, let me back up. What did he say? And then I go back and I was like, oh no, he definitely said the other thing. And what's funny, I was like, well, that's weird. And then, and yet still the ending of like calling him out for, it's like, when did you figure out he was a doctor and that if he was there, it would make you not special and that it would ruin your place in this place. I don't know. I loved it, man. I think the show is very, very good, which are words I did not expect to hear myself say since 2008.
Wait, I'm curious why this was special because you had the on-demand version.
Because I instantly went back and listened and verified whether he said the one word or the other.
Yeah.
Which
you're right. You could do with the DVR.
I mean, but even with the DVR, if I'm watching live, I would not think to go back and do it because it would be a bit of a chore. Whereas
I would try to remember to go back later. Although I find it easier to rewind on a DVR than I do on demand. It gets a little stuttery on demand. Because with the DVR, I can actually see it as it's rewinding. Usually with on demand, you can't.
Full disclosure, I have, gigabit fiber, so I'm a little bit spoiled, and then I can usually
No, it's not about bandwidth. I'm just saying they usually just don't, like the app doesn't usually show you it rewinding.
No, I mean, sometimes there's like you could drag along and you see the preview of what's at different places, so you just kind of drive back. And
okay. Gotcha. Cool.
At any rate, definitely enjoying it. I may accelerate my catch-upness because I know there's some big spoiler, some big thing happens this week, and I'm still...
Well, it's the mid-season finale.
Oh.
Which is essentially I don't understand. Like, this is starting to bug me. Like, wait, you're ending the season now, and you're not going to pick it up until months from now, and it's going to be... Usually these half seasons have different story arcs now. I'm like, well, then just call it another season. Like, we can have 2 seasons in a year. I don't care. Do you?
Yeah. I think it's an artifact of entrenched union Hollywood interests where it's like, well, this is a season, and so we have to call this that. It's
just habit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because season 4 up until episode 9 is the resolving of the prison and the governor, right? Which don't watch is what I'm saying to you. Like, that was when I was like, I still can't tell you to watch. Season 4 from 9 on is them all in like broken up in different parts of the world trying to figure out how to go forward. And we don't know where they're going except for this one vague sign that they get to at the very end of the season. And that's a whole other story arc, which is so much more worth seeing. You would care about Beth more if you'd seen that, because although the different stories are variable, the one with Beth and I'm blanking on the archer's name suddenly. Earl's brother. Daryl. Beth and Daryl have adventures together, which is fantastic. And you love both of them so much more after these adventures. And then they get separated. And then, of course, there's Terminus at the end of that season. And then this season starts with, the resolving of Terminus. And then they go off to the church with the detective from The Wire. Yes. And you've got a whole other story arc going on. So, I guess it doesn't matter what they call them, but I feel like this is a season finale this week.
I will say, well, and again, I still have a ways to get caught up. I will say that the way the guy who played Bob handled the laughter or the tears, the crying turned to laughter, like stoicism turned to tears, turned to laughter, was about as organic and believable as I could possibly imagine for that scene, and it exactly captured what they showed in the comic book with Dale on that moment. And also, I guess the other thing we got in Slabtown was we saw Carol wheeled in on there, which I don't think was made terribly clear that she was like missing in the episode beforehand, but I assume all of that'll get explained to us in some kind of film.
Well, didn't see her? Wait, she got wheeled in where?
To the hospital.
So you didn't see the episode where she and Daryl head out from the church?
I guess
that happens earlier in this season.
I guess that was 2 episodes ago, and I guess it just wasn't on my mind because I'm watching them in pairs and with a 10-day, 11-day gap in between. I guess that
there's a little disconnect in the timeline here, but you see Daryl and he sees the car with the cross on the back. And he recognizes that as the car that took Beth when they finally got separated.
Oh, okay. So you got that because that was context for you. To me, that would have blown right past. I wouldn't have known what that meant.
And so Carol's like, what was that? And he's like, those are the people who took Beth. And you don't know what happened to them until this scene where you see Carol wheeled in. And you still don't know what happened in between. You're like, huh?
Okay. All right. Well, to be honest, I'm going to say I'm actually thankful to not have context on all this. I love that I'm going in sideways on this, having no idea, because it's really drawn me back in.
Yeah, I still think it would draw you back in even with the context because it's just such a better season. Like you say, it's got stakes. Things make sense. People are not clean endings. You've got those amazing scenes like Bob. And I like you. I really enjoyed being not fooled, but being suspicious. Like, wait, is this a flashback? And then realizing, well, it's not a flashback. Well, where are we? How is it? Have they been lying to us about Atlanta being in shreds? And then they start to unfold that, and you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Well, and I love the fact that it snaps like you get to the point where like, okay, so it's not the past, and then the next thing you see is this hard cut where you hear the sounds of an exercise machine, and you're like, wait, is somebody exercising? What kind of world is this? Where and then it's just that military discipline that she had. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, that's it for Spoilerin Time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. You will find us on all of these channels. Check out cordkillers.com and support us on patreon.com/cordkillers, which if you're seeing this early, you must.
You already did. Congratulations, time traveler. Welcome to 2 days before everyone else.
All right, John Tidor.
Who's John Tidor?